Hello my snacks, welcome back to more of the craziest updates on stories on the internet. My name's Jack, and am I a human or am I a robot?
I'll never tell.
Anyway, we begin with a story that has a new, scary update. This story has quite a few updates that have been pumped out over the last month, so we're going to go through them all. Of course, if you're already familiar with some of the earlier parts of the story, feel free to skip ahead. It all begins back in late November. Am I the a-hole for believing my daughter over a grown man? I don't know if I watch too many crime shows or if I'm just paranoid, so I've come here to ask. Last week, I made chicken gnocchi soup. When it was almost done, I started helping my daughter with a school project. She got us both a bowl, and a few seconds later, my boyfriend runs into the room with a bowl and tells me to eat the bowl he has. I told him it was all the same, and he insisted that he wanted mine because it had more chicken. Thinking back now, I don't know how he would know that, considering my daughter dished it out. My daughter took the bowl he gave me and said she would eat it. He yanked it out of her hand and said,
No, it's for Mom.
I took the bowl and he went to the living room. I continued doing my daughter's project and told her not to eat the soup. 20-ish minutes later, I walked into the kitchen to pour the soups out and he was still eating his. He asked, why didn't we eat any? And I said the cat got into it while we were waiting for it to cool down. He screamed, What? Was it your bowl? Cats can't eat that! I told him it was only a lick, but he has been stressed out, watching the cat like a hawk, obsessive even. His reaction was very weird. These accidents all happened before the soup incident over the span of 6 months. It wasn't one after another in a short period of time. Now, since then, my emergency money has gone missing. I keep money hidden just in case. I lost my older sister because she wasn't able to escape a dangerous situation, and I literally swore on her grave I would never be in that position. After the soup incident, I went to get my money, and it was gone. It was hidden, and I had changed the location every few months. I asked my daughter if maybe she found it, and that if she took it, I wouldn't be mad, because I knew she couldn't have spent it. She said no. A few hours later, she tells me she forgot, but the other day, her and my boyfriend got pulled over, and when she saw my pink wallet in his glove box. Now, I did not tell her which wallet it was in, or that it was in a wallet, so I decided to ask him if he found it by accident. He asked me why I was hiding a large amount of money.
You know you could never leave me.
And laughed. He has never said anything like that before. I told him it was for my daughter's Christmas. He said no, he didn't find the money, but could use his credit card for gifts. I didn't tell him about my daughter seeing my wallet in his car. Now, here are a few other things that have happened in the past few months that seemed random at the time, but now they don't. Again, to reiterate the italic edit there, these all happened before the soup incident, over a span of 6 months, not one after another, so it wasn't something that was totally obvious and consistent behavior. I have a severe allergy to latex. One day, we were about to sleep together, and I glanced at the mirror we have by our bed and saw the condom wrapper was a different color. I stopped him because it wasn't latex-free, and he said it was a mistake and just an older one he had. We had been dating for over 2 years, and he knows how serious my allergy is. My EpiPen that I keep in my room is missing, and I didn't realize it. I didn't realize it was missing until I was searching for my money. Another odd thing is one day he was following me down the stairs while I was carrying laundry, and he kicked the back of my leg and I fell. He said he slipped, but the stairs are wood, and he was wearing his steel-toe boots. At the time, I thought it was an accident. Now, okay, am I overthinking this? My anxiety has been at an all-time high. Do I watch too much true crime? Here is why I think I might be the a-hole. We have a good relationship. He loves my daughter like she is his. We split all shared bills, and we both pull our own weight around the apartment. We don't fight. He has never so much as raised his voice at me. We are paycheck to paycheck, but the bills are paid. I thought about going to my mom's house for a few days and asking him to, when I get there, when I'm safe, about the money, but I don't have money to do that now. She is on a fixed income and can't help. I feel stupid for being scared. I mean, last night I decided to check his car for my wallet, and he caught me. I asked him for my money back, and he tried playing dumb. I told him my daughter saw it there. He told me she was lying. I told him I never told her about the money or what wallet. He said he was a grown man and kids lie all the time. I asked him once more for my money, and he said,
I'm not giving you money to leave me.
I waited until he was in the shower to grab my cat and my daughter, and we left. Now, I can't take my cat with us to a shelter, and the domestic violence shelters are full. I was able to get us a night at a cheap motel. This exact situation is why I had money saved. I did everything right, and now I'm screwed. I feel like I just blew up my entire life. So with all the creepy recollections over the last few months, it's understandable everyone thinks not the a-hole, despite many actually at the time thinking the story was possibly fake. I mean, look, understandable. It does seem kind of crazy that with all these events happening that the OP wouldn't have really picked up onto it until 6 months down the line when there's a soup issue. Others seeming to judge the OP for not being keen-eye enough. Like, okay, wow, what a great relationship to have as the foundation of it. Consistently observing your partner for any slight cracks or even theoretical possibilities they could be an abusive, dangerous person. I mean, good luck ever sleeping next to them at night. I don't know, do you think the OP was pretty ignorant at first? I feel like you can't really blame someone for, assuming their partner might actually be a good person. It's kinda why you're dating them. Now, 4 days later, we come to an update and call this boyfriend a Victorian street lamp because he is filled with nothing but gaslighting. The day after we left, he sent me a picture of my EpiPen and tried telling me it was in my nightstand the whole time. I tore that room apart looking for it, so I know for 100% fact it wasn't there. He took it. He tried getting me to come back, telling me I scared myself stupid and watched too many true crime TV. Something didn't feel right, so I told him to put my money and EpiPen in the mailbox. We went back and forth, and he denied having my money. He then said,
If we broke up, you and M,
my daughter,
are no longer allowed in my apartment and will be treated like trespassers.
He sent me a pic of his Target practice sheets. I went to the police about the money and was told it was a civil issue. I was upset but wanted the rest of my stuff, so I asked for an escort. Yesterday, I finally got an escort into the apartment with a cop and my landlord. He destroyed everything of my daughter's, and he ruined the laptop charger I use for work. No EpiPen. My daughter's medication and backup medical supplies were ruined. Our landlord let me off the lease without having to pay an early termination fee, which is great, considering I have no money. Her motels are expensive. I don't want to get rid of our cat. All shelters are full, and this is scary as hell. I'm glad I'm not alone in reacting to this. How the hell is theft of cash a civil matter? Not to mention possibility of, trying to get you to suffer from a medical issue by stealing and hiding your EpiPen. I'm sorry. What's the point of the police then? Not to mention when getting an escort too, the police then would see all the destruction that's clearly happened. I mean, sure, even if there is some possibility to theorize that, maybe this woman did it herself and she's trying to frame him. Either way, it's still evidence of some sort of domestic situation. What the? OP explains further as to why the police don't get involved yet. She says, I'm beyond angry that nothing can be done. Insurance won't cover her medications or supplies until next month. She just got refills. I can get her meds, but I'll pay out of pocket. I have no money. Since I couldn't prove my money existed, I can't prove he stole it. I'm livid. Well, she can get a restraining order at least, right? Not unless he gets physical with me. I should have let him hit me and I would have had a lot more help available, which is so messed up. I'm all for innocent until proven guilty, but God, sometimes, can we get people to study, intuition and just better perception? It's clear the only thing stopping the situation from escalating is the fact that this guy knows that if he gets physical, then he suddenly loses all the power he has over OP. We've all been in high school. We've all seen Mean Girls, I assume. We know how manipulative and overpowerful people can be just through the power of spoken word and veiled threats. That's right, my justification for getting this man arrested is by relating him to a high school teenage girl.
The true demons of our society. Just look at them. Stop it! I can't tell if you're genuinely judging me or I'm just so insecure!
Over to the next update 6 days later. This was on December 10th, so just keep in mind, all this is happening on the build-up to Christmas. What a great wrap-up to 2023 for these people. So on Saturday, December 9th, I went back to the police station again. This time, I printed out the threatening text messages that included the Target practice sheets he sent. I explained in detail about the accidents, proving he was trying to hurt me, and I even had my landlord put in writing that he believed our lives were in danger after seeing everything I was showing the police and let me leave my lease early. I brought in the destroyed medical supplies and medications. And oh my God, the police said they had already talked to him and said he didn't do any of it. He told them my daughter probably destroyed her stuff because she is special ed. She has very mild Asperger's but doesn't destroy things. Since it was his word against mine, they believed him. I didn't have proof he stole the money or that it even existed in the first place. I was told the EpiPen was my responsibility, and they won't do anything if it's lost. I was told to let it go and acted like I was bothering the police with my petty civil issues. I will just give you a moment. If you have a pillow beside you you'd like to just scream into, it's totally fine. Very understandable. I am so defeated and angry. My daughter isn't going to have gifts for Christmas because I have to save for a new deposit on an apartment. We have been staying in motels while I was reaching out to domestic violence resources. Can't get help without a restraining order or police report. Every place is out of funds. He is getting away with everything. And I'm so glad we got out because there is no doubt in my mind he would have gotten away with my murder. I know this sounds like my last update, but this is what happened. Nothing new, no justice, no repercussions for him. He gets to stay in the apartment. My landlord offered me another unit across town, but I can't afford to move in. This exact situation is why I had money stashed away, because no one has ever cared about me and us, and I knew that. There is nothing else I can do. Don't worry. I assure you this does have an actual decently happy ending, but we just, a bit further down into hell before we get there. I'm sorry. Now, I can't personally find the comment, at least from OP saying it, but there's a lot of people mentioning the possibility and strong evidence. Again, these comments were deleted, so I don't know what exactly if it's true or not, but ex-boyfriend is a cop. Could be true. Could be why they seem to be so complacent and just believing the person who could possibly be an abuser when they just say, nah, I didn't do those things. Like,
oh, that should settle it then. Everyone knows that men who steal and hit women and threaten them with murder always confess when the police question them.
It's apparent to these unverified statistics, but I'm sure these people aren't just talking out of their own buttholes. Apparently, police, 40% of them are abusers themselves anyway, so it seems to be very likely, especially through other people expressing their own personal experiences, that if these cops aren't, well, buddies with the ex-boyfriend, they're at least very familiar and supportive of his tactics to have his woman be kept in line.
Oh, gee, an organization known for high rates of domestic violence among its ranks isn't believing a victim? I'm shocked.
Look, whether or not you believe this sort of discussion on police being consistently believed to be such horrible people is valid or not, even if you're a huge police supporter, you still got to acknowledge this is an issue. I'm a guy. A male. I'll support men's issues all the way, but I will still acknowledge there's a lot of bad behaviors in men out there. Now, up through Christmas, we weren't getting any updates until it's the 28th of December, with an uncomfortable title. I thought we were safe. A lot of people wanted an update, so here it is. On Christmas, he slashed my tires, knowing I would have to pay out of pocket to replace them, which I don't have. Today, he threw a heavy patio chair through the window of the place we were staying at to let me know he knew where we were, and I was asked to leave for everyone's safety. Except my daughter and I aren't safe. I walked in the sleet and snow with my daughter and our cat, and I felt vulnerable and like open prey, so we came back to the police station to sit in the lobby until morning. Shelters are still full, and I now have to disclose that he is dangerous anywhere we go. Police couldn't find him, but I know he has to be close. Well, it becomes suspicious then. How the hell does this man know where she is? People in the comments ask about trackers, to which the OP comments that she has no idea. Considering he apparently has a new girlfriend as well, it seems strange that he's so obsessed with messing with her life still. And in case you're wondering if maybe he's tracking her phone, well, OP actually got a cheap burner phone after she left him. She doesn't have his number on that phone and hasn't used it to call anyone, so there's no way to understand how exactly he's tracking her. That is until the next year on the 1st of January, Opie comes back with some good news. Also bad, but good to know that we found out how. I found the AirTag in the cat carrier. I checked everywhere I could think of and still couldn't figure out how he was tracking us. I blocked him on everything, including email, after he sent me pics of his target practice sheets, among other things. I got a cheap burner phone. My daughter was out of school for winter break, so he didn't follow her or anything. I checked my car for a tracker. Still nothing. Do not have an iPhone, so I couldn't check whatever app an AirTag is attached to. My cat is harness trained and wears a collar, but there was no tracker. Until today, I decided to feel up. Sorry, the only way I can describe it. The carrier. I ran my fingers over every inch of it and felt a little bump on the bottom soft side. There was no new stitching or obvious cut. He had to use a seam ripper along the stitching. It was undetectable and I almost missed it. he had to have had help because I've never seen him sew anything. Probably the person who is letting him hide now. Look, if his excuse for the AirTag was to track my cat, he would have had to put it on his collar or harness because that is what he would wear when we go on walks and car rides. My cat would never go in his carrier unless I was planning on leaving for more than a few days. I have no idea how long it has been there, nor do I know how far the tracker works, but now we aren't safe where we are. Again, I feel disgusted and I feel like hunted prey. This is so unnerving and I'm so uncomfortable. Who the frick was I living with? Now, there's coming some good advice just to share around. So Android as of this year has automatic, I think you have to enable it, and manual tracker alerting and locating. You can ping them as well. Thought one of us was being tracked, activated and pinged the tracker that my phone picked up, and it ended up being in our neighbor's apartment. Oops, that sucker was loud though. Another person suggests AirGuard. It is German made and detects recurring signals in your vicinity. So if there is an AirTag or similar that moved with you, it will tell you. Further information on the Android feature, it's under emergency options. You have to have Bluetooth enabled for it to work. It will alert you to trackers. So there you go. Those of you using Android phones, don't worry, you don't need an Apple to actually know if you're being tracked. But huzzah! Just in the last week, we've got a final update. Good news! I finally got the restraining order. I'm hoping this update will make everyone happy as making me. I finally was granted the restraining order, and we get the keys to our new apartment on the 11th, a place I can afford monthly and comes partially furnished. It's in a super safe area right by my daughter's school. There is security! We will spend our time living in our car until then, and of course, it has to be snowing, but we are together and we have our kitty. This nightmare is almost over. I know really this is just the beginning of this. What is probably going to be a few years of battling to get this person hopefully in jail, at the very least, fully out of OP's life forever. Am I the a-hole for telling my mother-in-law she won't be seeing my baby after throwing a baby shower for herself? You know, it's a crazy ride when this is the spoiler. Honestly, batshit insane and disgusting. Ooh, boy. My husband and I are expecting our first child. We moved to be closer to his family. I aim no contact with mine. My mother-in-law has been referring to the baby as her baby this entire time. She will say things like,
I can't wait for my baby to be born. My baby is going to be so loved.
This rubs me the wrong way for reasons I cannot explain, but my husband tells me to ignore her. So my mother-in-law wanted to throw me a baby shower and invite her friends. She said that they made an agreement a long time ago that they would celebrate each other's kids' weddings and births. My husband and I eloped and declined a reception for her friends since we don't know them. My mother-in-law told me that I owed it to her to let her throw the baby shower since I hurt her friends' feelings by not having a wedding reception. I asked if I could invite my friends, and she said no, this was for her friends, and that if my friends wanted to throw me a shower, they could. I reluctantly agreed. My heart goes out to this poor mother-in-law and her friends. How dare OP not fork out the money to have an elaborate little dinner's place set, not supplying all her friends with free alcohol and organizing it all just for them to personally enjoy more than the actual bride and groom, the people who are actually trying to celebrate the wedding? God, weddings aren't all about you, you know, the bride. Gah. My husband and I spent hours on our registry, and my mother-in-law asked for it so she could share with her friends. She said she forwarded the registry on. She asked me what design I wanted on my cake and cookies. I told her flowers because I am decorating the nursery in a garden theme. But at the shower, they provided me with a mother-to-be sash and my mother-in-law a granny-to-be sash to wear. Now, I noticed that the theme of the shower was not garden, but circus animals. The cake had an elephant and balloons on it, and the cookies were animals. At first, I thought that maybe the floral theme was just too difficult, so I rolled with it until it was time to open presents. Every present was some sort of circus animal. Onesies, blankets, toys, nothing on my registry. I was a little confused and even went so far to check my registry to make sure I hadn't goofed up and changed everything. I thanked everyone for their gifts and tried to sound as gracious as possible, but I was confused. Now, in case you've been afraid that the husband here is very tolerant of his mother's behavior here, fret not. My husband, who is a little less tactful than I am, showed up at the end of the shower and noticed the theme right away. He goes, "What's up with all the circus animals?" He looks at the presents and says, "This isn't what we asked for." Then he looked at his mom and goes, "Mom, what did you do?" She smiled and said, said,
I didn't like the theme you chose for my baby. I'm going to decorate the baby's nursery at my house with circus animals, so I created a registry for myself.
My husband said,
You did what?
She says,
My baby is going to need a room at my house, so I threw a shower for myself.
I lost my composure and told her that she would not see my baby and to stop calling the baby hers. And my husband told his mom that she's delusional if she thinks we're going to allow this. She started crying and said we are just withholding her baby from her. And now we've been getting texts from his family since the shower, calling us selfish and ungrateful and saying we ruined her joy of being a grandma. Are we the a-holes? So clearly someone hasn't moved on from having their son, but she's been a real entrepreneur in this whole baby making business. Just outsourcing the pregnancy to someone else. Then, like an Elon Musk, trying to take all the credit. So it seems this has got a lot of people like genuinely concerned though. Not just, ha ha ha, what a crazy mother-in-law. But more like, oh dear God, this woman's going to be insane. This is not the last you're going to hear about this. Like, your husband is right. This is delusional. This isn't just some grandmother demanding grandparents' rights or some stupid logic like that. This is someone clearly, maybe her summer fashion will be a restraint jacket. Now, the OP later came back just to post some clarifications. It does become relevant as we go on into the next update. So I'm no contact with my mom because she was physically and emotionally abusive to me and my brother. Our dad passed away a few years ago. I'm very close to my brother, but he lives across the country. We moved to be closer to my husband's family because he's always been very close with them and was getting homesick. We both work from home, and when I got pregnant, we decided no better time than the present to move. We wanted our daughter to have a family. It was especially important to me because I didn't really have that growing up. Look, my mother-in-law has always been a little odd, but nothing compared to my own mother. My husband told me after this event that she's always been able to make things about herself, but he had no clue she'd take it to this extreme. He wants to wait a few days before we defend ourselves or take any additional action. His logic is that we will respond emotionally rather than logically if we respond now. So let's just wait for it to blow over first. Now, my father-in-law is very much in the picture. He and mother-in-law are long divorced. He and his wife have been absolutely amazing. What I'd imagine excited grandparents to be. My mother-in-law kept the gifts. I still don't quite know if her friends caught on to exactly what she did, but they let her keep everything. This was a shower for her friends. The family shower is later. Didn't want me to invite my friends to this one, nor did she invite her family. It was all people I never met until that day, and my husband hadn't seen them in 20 years. And those wondering if those friends, what was their reaction to this whole confrontation? Well, aside from what we already know, that it was the mother-in-law who made this registry, etc., the friends were very quiet after my husband called out the theme. Okay, where could this insanity be coming from? What children does she have already? Does she maybe want another gendered child instead of the two of the same? Well, husband is the younger of two boys, and yes, my baby is a girl. You may be right. Moving over to an update in the comments a day later. Quick thank for all the feedbacks, and then I have text messages where mother-in-law and I conversed about the shower, what I wanted, me sending her my registry, etc. She was all,
This is going to be so wonderful. You're going to love it. My friends are so excited for you. I can't wait to see what everyone gets you.
call me naive, but I did not think that she had ill intent with this. For those asking why I reluctantly agreed to attend a party with her friends, I could tell how much it meant to her to carry on this tradition with her friends, but I was hesitant because I had never met them. My husband and I had declined the wedding reception she wanted to throw for the same reason. I didn't know them and hadn't seen them in over 20 years. We had eloped, so we had no intention of throwing a reception of any kind. We didn't even have a bridal shower, other than one that my coworkers threw as a surprise. I could see how much it meant to her to host this shower, and there's a part of me that wishes I had this kind of tradition in my life. I also felt guilty when she said her friends' feelings were hurt and that they couldn't celebrate our marriage. So I spoke with my husband last night before we went to bed and told him that I feel like we need to say something to the extended family sooner rather than later. I said I understand he wants to respond logically and not emotionally, but that I also feel like us not saying anything looks like we have something to hide. He agreed and said that he will send a well-worded response later today. He just wants to think of how to word it before sending anything. I can respect that. He wants to make the situation better, not worse. As I said in my original post, he's a little tactless, and he knows it. He wants to make sure he keeps what he says neutral and to the point. He's also not sure what to say to his mom at this point. He said once he sees how the family reacts to the whole story, then he'll be able to make a better judgment of how to approach her. A reminder, there had been zero discussion with her about setting up a room at her house for the baby. I asked my husband last night, had she mentioned anything to him about it? And he said no. Other than she suggested we add a pack and play to our registry so we can have a portable crib. He said he was as shocked as I was to find out that she had intended on setting up a full-fledged nursery at her house and that he had no idea she was throwing a shower for herself. I asked him, why didn't he take me seriously when I said that her calling the baby her baby made me uncomfortable? And he said that he thought it was just a generational thing. I asked why he didn't ask her to stop, and he said he wishes he had and feels bad for not taking me more seriously. He said he knows I have trauma from the years of abuse at my mother's hand and thought maybe I was reacting due to that. But now he sees that it goes beyond that. He also knows that due to my past experiences, I tend to blame myself for things and don't stand up for myself even though I should. I grew up believing everything that went wrong was my fault. Years of therapy have helped, but I still find myself with that mindset in some situations. I'm a bit of a people pleaser, trying to keep the peace. So he wishes he had stood up sooner rather than disregarding what made me uncomfortable.
Ew, communicating and coming to an understanding? This isn't a Reddit story!
He repeated that his mom is notorious for making things about herself, but that he had no clue she would go to this extent. We agreed that if she had just been honest with her intent, then we would have been okay with it. Maybe a little weirded out if we're being honest here, but we would have allowed it. What bothers most of us is the extent she went to deceive us rather than just having a conversation with us. We had no clue grandparent showers were a thing either. To summarize the rest, because it does drag on a bit, Opie and husband are still not fully certain they want to go completely no contact. They do definitely want to make sure she's not at all involved in the delivering of the child no matter what happens, nor do they want to have their daughter be taken out of the hospital for as long as possible. Just want to make sure they are having as constant contact with their new child as much as possible and mother-in-law is not involved. The main thing they want is for their baby to be loved, safe, and secure. They know that they don't really have any family to fall back on, at least on her side. Aside from the brother, who apparently will be as available as possible, ready to fly over with a plane ticket if need be. And yeah, ultimately they want to do whatever they can to give their child an actual family, despite how broken it's already seeming to be. So sadly, according to other information from the OP, it doesn't seem like a full family is really what this daughter's going to end up getting, as apparently the aunts, the siblings of the mother-in-law, were quick to defend her and try and shame the OP and the father for what they did. Though it seems like the only people who are actually really supporting the husband and OP on that side of the family are his own dad and their stepmom, so at least there might be that. Hell, even the husband himself comes to comment a few times, assuring the fact he's not catering to his mother. It's just that the OP is trying to be as neutral as possible in her comments and reviews of the events that have unfolded. But regardless, the husband himself believes there's no justification for what his mother's done. And considering how OP mentions that she is someone who clearly has a habit of fawning to others, it makes sense that she's done this in the posts. In another comment, he mentions that as far as he's concerned, mother will not be anywhere near their daughter, even contacting their property manager tomorrow to come change their locks on their doors and ensure that the window locks are working properly. And about this hesitancy to go no contact, well, it seems the husband is far more certain in this decision. At this point, I don't want anything to do with my mom, even if she does show remorse. I don't see how I can ever forgive her for what she did. I love my wife and daughter, and no one is going to hurt them on my watch. Now, it was around this time that the OP also posted in other subreddits, but they were deleted as they weren't apparently relatable enough to that subreddit, of which the husband left a few other comments which fully explain and make us understand why he's suddenly going so scorched earth on his own mother. I have questions about my brother since he knew this was going on and didn't say anything. He believed my mom when she said I was being abused. Right now, the only family we trust are my dad and stepmom and my wife's brother. So eventually this all got compiled just 2 days ago into the best of Redditor updates, where the husband comes back once again, now taking over the OP's account, seemingly for her safety. It was added to the post itself. Husband says, "Hi, husband here. Got tagged about this post. I've taken over this account so my wife doesn't see the blatantly hateful messages we've received. Luckily, this posting has much more supportive responses, for which I'm grateful. My wife is on board now with no contact and other actions to protect herself and our daughter. She processes things a little differently because of her past abuse, but she realizes now that she's done nothing wrong and she's ready to fight. We've had a week full of appointments. Therapists, OB, psychiatrist, attorney. The medical providers are all willing to testify on my wife's behalf if it comes to that. The attorney we consulted with has advised us to maintain no contact with my mother or any of her flying monkeys. I love that term. Thanks, Reddit. We've blocked everyone from social media, and on our phones, we have set our own accounts to private. We said grandparents' rights can only be established if there's a relationship with the child. So the best thing to do is not to allow her to have one. We're filing for a restraining order against her as well. That's all I really know at this point, and I absolutely love my wife and daughter, and I'm ready for this nightmare to be over. So yeah, it can be agreed that at this point, mother-in-law needs to never be alone in a room with OP, let alone the baby. Lord knows what she might do to get what she wants. Mother-in-law is 100% gonna be making some stupid calls to CPS once the baby is here, and she is barred from seeing her. I mean, on the surface, it doesn't seem that crazy until you really dive into it like some comments here are. Like really, think about it. The whole lead up to this baby shower, mother-in-law was baiting OP for months, trying to get her to lose her mind. Like not once did they mention or even hint on the fact that this is what the grandmother or the mother-in-law was hoping to do. It makes others wonder that the mother-in-law's intentions were more nefarious than this and that she had plans to get the baby no matter what. And OP's family history was just an easy excuse that she could convince everyone else to get on board. And others think this is where the OP's husband is clearly seeing that writing on the wall too. It's just because of the wife's trauma response that she's not really seeing it as clearly as the husband is. Okay, is this next story tough love or selfish preservation? Am I wrong for making a depressed friend homeless for my own comfort? So this issue has been going on since November, but the post began in early January. In November, a friend, 28 male, mentioned that he was currently homeless and alternating between living with his sister and her big family in a trailer and his car with his cat. Now, I'm 31 female, and I offered to let him live in my storage room or spare bedroom to get back on his feet. There was no rent or utilities discussed. He's never paid a dime. Him staying here has always been understood to be a temporary thing, but no actual time limit had been discussed. He's been a very considerate roommate. He stays in his room most of the time, he cleans up his messes, he's polite, etc., and I absolutely cannot stand living with him. I've lived alone since I was 19, and I hate having someone else in my private space. I thought I'd be okay, but I'm tense and on edge all the time, listening for his footsteps, breathing, anything. I had a very abusive childhood, and until I moved into my own apartment, I was never safe at home. Unreasonably annoyed at the tiniest, pettiest things. I want my house back. I want to make soup and French toast at 3 a.m. I want to vacuum at 10 p.m. Super petty stuff like that. However, he has nowhere to go. He's getting a student loan check in 2 weeks, but other than that, he has no income. Rent is through the roof, and we live in a housing desert. When I moved out at 19, I paid $780 for a one-bedroom apartment by myself. He's looking at over $1,200 for an apartment the same size. Genuinely think he won't be able to afford or qualify for any apartment in town, and he hasn't done anything really wrong to me. I'm just neurotic. Would I be the a-hole for telling him I'd like him to leave by the 1st of February? How about the 1st of March? An extremely in-depth comment? Yes. So yeah, this is where I mean, is it, where do you get to put a limit on your generosity? Let's remind ourselves, this person would be homeless otherwise. And apparently they have done nothing wrong. They've been a very respectful, friendly person in the household. They haven't taken advantage of OP, none of that stuff. So where would you lie in this scenario? Which side of the fence would you be on? I want you to keep that in mind as we go to the next update. Because the OP decides to double down on their decision, we just had the uncomfortable conversation and I went in softly. I did not end up giving him a deadline at this time. I reminded him this was temporary and grilled him on what he's been doing to look for an apartment. He admitted he had been doing nothing, and he had absolutely no plans, no leads, and hasn't made any attempt. However, I think he will leave soon of his own volition. He is very conflict avoidant, and I'm very furious. After he admitted that he hadn't been looking for a place to live, nor was he looking for a job, I told him that the place where I work, my second job, was hiring. He told me he had a confession to make.
I smoke weed.
No Schmidt, Sherlock. I can smell it every day. It's super strong and my entire house smells like weed. It just wasn't a problem, since I smoke sometimes too. Would have been nice if you asked, but whatever. Anyway, he says he can't get a job because he smokes weed and thinks he can't pass a drug test. I suggested he stop smoking weed for a couple of weeks. He kind of went, meh. So if he legitimately believes he can't get a job because of weed in his urine, he is choosing daily weed over being a self-sufficient adult. I think it's an excuse. He would rather smoke pot than get a job. So I should support him? That's the actual choice he's making? I reminded him several times that him staying with me was always a temporary thing. He needed to start planning to leave, but he could take a couple of months, get on his feet. I'll help him get on his feet and get a plan in place. I explained why. I was incredibly clear and repeated myself several times. So now, I'll be pinning down his conflict-avoidant butt for uncomfortable conversations about job applications and housing resources at least twice a week. I'm going to be getting info from managers, employers at a bunch of different places about how they don't care about weed in the urine. It's legal where we live. I'm going to be researching and finding info on housing resources, apartments for sale, and all that. Research is one of my strong skills, after all. I'm going to be so freaking helpful that the only way he'll be able to avoid getting a job is to move himself out. And if that doesn't work by the time he gets his big check in a couple of weeks, I'll give him the March deadline. I think Miss Nice Girl just flew out the window, and I'm going to be making French toast at 3 a.m. with no shame. Gotta love that suddenly aggressive supportiveness. But well, straight to the next update once again, because it's pretty much on the same day this one came out. He came out of his room a little while after our conversation and told me he's moving back with his sister tonight. I told him he didn't need to. I wasn't kicking him out. I just wanted him to start planning and getting ready to be on his own. He was in a passive-aggressive rage, though, packed all his things except his cat and moved out. I now have another cat. I don't know if at some point he'll want the cat back or not, but he's gone. I'm on my way to Home Depot, and I'm changing the locks tonight. Now, apparently, this reaction of his was a blessing in disguise. According to a lot of people who have experienced this sort of thing, the fact that she was offering months of notice, that was, like, dangerous. Apparently, it's very common for these kind of people to actually not at all abide by this sort of leverage that OP was giving him. Overall, a classic tale where the ultimate lesson is that you cannot help someone who just flat out doesn't want to be helped. Free cat though. Yeah, the guy really thought he was doing something by leaving in a huff. Oh no! Anyway, friends, we'll end today's rambles there. Thank you for watching and tolerating me today. I appreciate you a lot, and until next time, love your face, drink water, bye-bye.